Hi, everyone. Welcome to Talks at Google. This is a virtual event. We're so excited to be here with you all. I'm Lauren Verusio. My pronouns are she, her, and I lead the consumer communications team here at YouTube. I've also volunteered with the Human Rights Campaign, which is the nation's largest LGBTQ plus advocacy organization for nearly 15 years, where I now sit on the board of directors. But you are not here to hear from me. You are here for our very esteemed guest. I am so excited to introduce you to Elliot Page. Elliot is an Academy Award nominated actor known for his indelible on-screen presence in both tentpole and art house films. His love for storytelling and passion for social justice has taken him behind the camera as a producer and documentary filmmaker, whose work answers the call to action of a generation. A tireless champion of the underrepresented, Elliot uses his global platform to shed light on important social and LGBTQ plus issues. Today, we're here to talk about Elliot, his work, and how we all can contribute as members and allies of the community. Elliot, it is my pleasure to welcome you to Talks at Google. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it for that lovely introduction. Thank you.
Well, it is all of your accolades. All I had to do was read them. You did it all. So kudos to you. And thank you again for joining us. Did you always want to be an actor? I know you started at an early age. Was it something that you always set out to do?
Well, it's one of those things that I think I was clearly very excited by and intrigued by. And then but it accidentally kind of came about when I was 10, a very classic, like, hey, come audition for this CBC movie of the week. Someone came to our school. And so that's what actually started it, where it became an actual tangible reality. And then it was really about at the age of, I'd say, 15, 16, where I particularly started to fall in love with acting in a new way, I think, in a deeper way, and film and art and music in general. And that's when I really, really was hoping for that to be my future. I think for me, first and foremost, it's always about connecting with something emotionally on the page, empathizing with someone emotionally on a page, and and being able to find that in yourself, especially, and which is even more exciting when the differences seem major, because you usually find out at the core of it, there's more similarities than you think, which to me has always been one of the most special and enjoyable and one of the greatest gifts for me of acting, because sometimes it does feel like this kind of little empathy exercise all the time.
You also recently made your directorial debut with There's Something in the Water. Congratulations. What was it like being on the other side of the camera? And did Gaycation help prepare you for this at all?
I really loved the experience of directing There's Something in the Water, which I co-directed with Ian Daniel, who I co-produced and co-hosted the show Gaycation with, which we absolutely learned so much from. We worked with such an incredible team in terms of understanding on a documentary level how to put stories together, themes, etc., and what it means to connect with people, and being behind the camera, especially in the nonfiction realm. I really enjoy I love the research element of it, and I feel grateful and humbled to connect with people around the world in so many communities, just extraordinary people, and to be able to work with some wonderful people to get these stories out there is it's some of the best experiences I've had in my life, and I hope to continue to be fortunate enough to do that, to continue that work.
It has been amazing to watch all the films you're a part of, whether it's in front of the camera or behind the camera, like we've just been discussing. Off camera, though, you recently came out as trans, as you referenced at the start of the conversation. And, coming out is such a deeply personal experience. And we, as LGBTQ plus people, we don't just come out once, we come out again and again and again, and it's definitely a journey. What has it been like to balance something so personal in such a public way?
What is it like? I think it's something I'm probably continuing to learn to balance, and I think that takes that of course takes some time. I think there's the extraordinary element of what it means when you receive so much support and validation and love from people, or when people share their stories that it helps them in some way. I mean, there's that's such an incredible, beautiful experience, and there's also an isolating part of it, and there's the social media part of it, and people with large platforms who, you know, say awful things about you, and this whole sort of, the strange, bizarre world that's, beyond your sort of control, and so learning how to adjust to what that looks like, but for the most part, I feel so just so I'm so lucky and so fortunate for, all the people that have risked far more than me to create a world that enables me to be here, to be who I am, and to have this platform, and to have the ability to create projects and that hopefully can help in some way. And so I think it's about navigating all those truths and realities, how grateful and exciting and humbling it all is, and also sometimes how it can be overwhelming, and certain things aren't necessarily always easy. But.
Yeah. And you said within that answer, reacting to folks. And I remember when I came out as gay many years ago, I'm very old at this point, there were plenty of people who said, but I just don't understand. And my reaction to them was, well, I don't understand what it's like to be 6 feet tall because I'm not, or I don't understand what the fears are of a parent because I'm not a parent. So when people say to you, but I just don't understand, what is your reaction to them?
Yeah, I mean, similar, I suppose, into what, your response of, you don't need to understand to, to hopefully respect, my identity of trans people. And if you don't understand, hopefully that could be a inclination to want to lean in and maybe educate yourself more, because of course, because of, the lack of representation, we're not taught about transgender history, LGBTQ plus history in school, et cetera. So when people, don't understand, because we do live in a society that is so binary, and everything is so gendered, not only from the get-go, before the get-go, people are having parties, right? The gender.
Yep.
In some cases. So, I think, just like what you said, exactly, you don't need to understand. I, of course, don't understand. I'm not going to ever understand lots of things about certain people, because I've not had that experience. But that doesn't mean that I can't respect and also, want to educate myself about what it might mean, or what those experiences might mean.
I think it's you hit the nail on the head. It's education, and to go back to the word you used earlier, empathy. We're all trying to be better humans, so if we could show up and educate ourselves on certain topics, and to show empathy, I think we'll get a lot farther.
Yeah, and I think too, like in regards to sort of cis and trans, it's like, you think as a cis person, I would imagine, of course, people are dealing with all their own sort of obstacles and restraints as to how they can be and how they can express themselves because of the pressure on them, so regardless of whether you're cis or trans, I think it's also about identifying, like, what are the pressures put on you in terms of how you perform your gender, or don't perform it correctly, or which I think in some ways I feel grateful for this experience, because you work through a lot, and dig through a lot, and I know so many, cis people who I deal with their own issues because of all these similar expectations and judgments and pressures that are put on. us and our gender.
Each year, YouTube, which is owned by Google, releases its top trending videos on the platform. And last year, the biggest video was of Nikki Tutorials. She's a popular beauty creator on YouTube, and she came out as trans in the video, and it was our #1 video, as mentioned. You used a social media platform, Instagram, to come out to the world as trans. So this is a two-part question. In your opinion, what do social media platforms do to positively advance the LGBTQ plus community?
Well, I think it does a lot. I think in terms of allowing someone somewhere who could potentially be feeling incredibly isolated in their household, in their community, at their school, all of the above, potentially, with nowhere to turn about how they're feeling, and to be able to access a resource where hopefully they can read other people's stories and see other possibilities and realities and engage with other people and find connection that way. I mean, I think in that way it's so incredibly powerful. And I think for me, I'm like thinking back to being a teenager. Yeah. I mean, there's the inevitable negatives, of course, that exist, but I think if there had been access to that and the representation that comes through those mediums and those platforms would definitely have been a game changer for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. What do social media platforms, though, need to do to be better? And you do not have to temper your answer, being that this is a Google Talks. But we know that there's always work that needs to be done, and we're always working to be better and to improve things. In your opinion, where do we need to go?
Oh goodness, I wouldn't say I'm the most well-versed on like social media myself. I wouldn't necessarily say it's completely my forte, but I mean, I guess for me, I think it's the ongoing conversation about just the degree of hateful language and hateful rhetoric, and that is, can often be normalized and defended, and perpetuates a lot of suffering and violence. And as we're seeing, a rise in hate crimes, all over. So that is obviously massively important in terms of what does it mean to clamp down on that. And I guess for me, that's the thing, I see the most. And, I see it, directed at me and other people, and much more extreme ways towards other people, of course, but it's just, that's obviously the sort of horror of it that I hope can change. But
And you referenced before, when you were a teenager, if you saw visibility that felt like you, it would have been a game changer. And I will never forget when I was in high school, I left school early before softball practice to go watch Ellen come out. I know, stereotype.
I'm sorry.
To go watch. It's fine. I said it. I own it. It's fine. I own it. And the stereotype continues because I ran home to go watch Ellen come out on her show. I had, there was a lot of buzz going into it. I knew it was going to be a big deal. I didn't know how it would affect me at the time, but I knew I had to skip school and go home and watch. And when I saw her come out, I felt like I saw myself for the first time. I was like, okay, this is what I feel. This is who I am. And it's okay because there's someone out there who is courageous and confident enough to sort of dive out into the deep end for me. Someone who I can point to when I say, okay, I can't find the words to describe myself, but I can point to her now, right? I can point to this moment.
Living in this space where, because you don't have those examples, even though you know something, even though I've known something about myself since I was a toddler, even though I know that I've known it, you get, let's just to say it really simply, like society gets in the way, everything that's, put on us, projected on us, etc. And when we see these moments, they mean a lot, and I think more than people, if we go back to the sort of, I don't understand what that's like. They might not also understand just how pivotal representation is. and how you and I are telling these stories from when we were really, young, these like little moments that were major for us. And then to think if we just had an appropriate amount of representation, for all underrepresented marginalized communities. And you have you can see a bit of a reluctance with people, or the sort of, oh, why does everybody have to be so sensitive, or this kind of reaction, which again goes back to the, I think, I don't understand, mixed with an ignorance, of course. But I just think, like, I just hope it makes people understand that it is so important and crucial, and it shouldn't be about us like sneaking and getting these tiny little moments.
You have done so much for the world. You have not only changed hearts and minds, but I have no doubt that you've saved lives. We appreciate who you are and what you stand for. We appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for continuing to be you and continuing to be an inspiration to us and so many other people. We really do appreciate you, Elliot. And thanks again so much for being here. It was wonderful talking to you today.